factoring trinomials, specifically perfect square trinomials. What does that mean to have a perfect square trinomial? What that means is that your trinomial actually factors into two binomials that are the same thing. For example, x plus 3 times x plus 3. That could also be rewritten as x plus 3 squared. You don't necessarily have to notice that this happens, but it might make things go faster for you, especially if you're taking a standardized test, to recognize patterns such as perfect square trinomials. Now, I would encourage you to watch the video on factoring when a is 1 and factoring when a is not 1, if you haven't done it before, because I'm going to name my a value, my b value, and my c value. I'm going to make a table like I do in that video. Factors of a times c. That will give me a sum of b. So I encourage you, if you have never seen this before, you may want to go back and watch that video that I have posted, factoring trinomials where a is not 1. Okay, now I'm going to think of factors of 9. 1 times 9, 3 times 3. And 3 times 3 is what works. So this factors into two binomials. Use the middle variable, positive 3 and positive 3. And ironically, I thought about it after I wrote what I had written at the top of the paper, that I wrote down the answer to my first problem, which is perfectly fine. Now, I usually leave my answer this way. You are welcome to write it this way as well. It does not matter, but this tells me that this is a perfect square trinomial. But I want you to notice, 9 is a perfect square. 100 is a perfect square. 196 is a perfect square. 4 and 25 are perfect squares. So I know that all 4 of these problems can be written as one single binomial raised to the second power. Now I'm going to skip number 2 for right now because I'm going to do all the ones where a is 1 first. So I'll come back to that. So on number 3, a is 1, b is negative 20, and c is 100. Okay, so factors of a times c, 100. They'll give me a sum of negative 20. Hopefully your mind's thinking about perfect squares at this, the fact that this is positive 100. You have positive 10 times positive 10 or negative 10 times negative 10 that will give you 100. And this is the one that works. And once you recognize this is a perfect square trinomial, you could skip straight to the bottom that I'm going to write. You may not want to do that. Just depends on if your mind is okay with skipping steps. So I put my middle variable and a negative 10 and a negative 10. So I have m minus 10 to the second power. Okay. Number 4, I have a equal to 1, b equal to 28, and c equal to 196. Okay, so that is a perfect square, and 14 times 14 gives me 196, and adds to give me positive 28. So I automatically know that I've got h plus 14 plus 14, or you could skip straight to h plus 14, that quantity squared. Okay, now I'll go up to number 2, and those are perfect squares. So I'm not even going to make this chart and name a, b, and c. I am going to say, okay, 2 times 2 gives me 4. 5 times 5 gives me 5. I need a minus in the middle. So I'm going to see if my theory will work. I need a minus in the middle. 2x times 2x gives me 4x squared. 5 times 5 gives me 25. Then I'm going to multiply and see if that works. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Minus 10x minus 10x and then plus 25. So 2x minus 5, that quantity squared, is 4x squared minus 20x plus 25 factor. Okay, now look at number 5, the last one. That is not a perfect square, and that is not a perfect square. But hopefully you see, and get your mind thinking about it, that you have a common factor here. What is my common factor among all these? Well, my common factor is 3. Oh, the exponents are different too, but is it okay? Can I factor a trinomial that has this exponent being half of this one? Yes. Yes, I can. So I'm going to divide these by 3. 27x to the 4th divided by 3 is 9x to the 4th. 18x squared divided by 3 is 6x squared. 3 divided by 3 is 1, positive 1. And now, this was a perfect square, and this was a perfect square. So, we'll test my theory before I actually say it's the final answer. The square root of 9x to the 4th would be 3x squared. Oh, what sign do I need? This is a plus sign, so this will be a plus sign, and so will this one. And then 1 times 1 is 1, and let's check to see if that's correct. 9x to the 4th plus 3x squared plus 3x squared is 6x squared plus 1. So yes, 3 times the quantity, 3x squared plus 1 squared, is my final answer to number 5 being factored. So there's another way, if you can notice patterns happening, you know, patterns happen in math all the time. If you can notice those patterns happening, you can arrive at the answer much more quickly, which will help you get through timed tests more quickly.